I told you guys I got some crazy builds, some crazy footage coming for the next year. It's on and popping. The channel is going to explode. I appreciate all you guys out here. And right now, I'm going to introduce you to the latest and greatest upgrades for the 2016 Challenger, man. It's going to be off the chain. I don't know what else to say.
This package our Hellcat killer package because it put some hurts on those Hellcats out there. So off the top, let's talk about cool stuff. We've got a Whipple Supercharger here. Whipple's awesome, they sound great, they perform great as well, it runs nice and cool. Some superchargers, when you run them back to back, they run hot, but Whipple's got it down packed where it cools down that air coming through the motor very nicely through the intercooler and also the break from the supercharger. So that's going to sit on top of his motor. Here we've got pretty much his rotating assembly. We've got the crankshaft over there. So John's car is a 5.7 liter, but we're going to stroke it out to a 6.4 liter. So what's cool about that is we're doing the forged pistons, forged rods, and the forged crankshaft. This stuff is really neat. On the Hemis, if you guys know about the Hemis, you know that the pistons are the weak point. A lot of guys want to put blowers on the Hemis, and you can do that, but you can't really push it to the full potential, and the reason why is these pistons. So come take a closer look at these. These are the forged pistons we use. On the pistons, if you're running boost, and let's say you get a bad quality 93 octane or your timing's a little too spicy, you can hurt this piston. You can get stress marks in it or they can crack. To give you an example, I've got an old piston here. Look at this guy. You see on the bottom of the piston, you got a puzzle piece here where it broke off. You can see actually the bottom of the ring there. What happened here is this was actually on a car that we built, and we had very little timing in this car. You can see here too the rings or the ring lands breaking off. We had very little timing in this car. It was very conservative, and we believe that the customer had a bad batch of 93 octane, ran the car really hard, and the knock sensors couldn't continue to pull the timing out of it. So if it was a forged piston, it would not have, you would have never had this issue. That's called detonation, and that's every really car guy's biggest fear is detonation. But anyways, we've got the rods here. The rods are cool. They come with ARP bolts on the end. On some high horsepower builds, you can end up breaking rod bolts, but you've got the ARP rod bolts here, so they're nice and sturdy. Plus, this is a forged rod, so it's way stronger. You can even look at the way it's built. Now, this is a GM LT1 rod and piston, so it looks a little bit different than a Hemi, but you can just see how much beefier this thing is. Like if someone's running at me, I'm probably going to throw this and knock them out, while this I'm not going to really reach for. But it really is a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, it is. But mainly it's really top-notch stuff. We use a lot of their rotating assemblies. And let's look at this crankshaft too. The crank is cool. Pull it up. Mainly packages, everything's super nice as you can see here. Now the purpose of this crankshaft, those rods ride against the crankshaft, and when we say a stroker engine, it's because of the crank. What that does is, when you've got this piston and rod, a stroker crank allows that piston to go further down that cylinder in order to make more power. So stroker motors normally make a lot more torque. So that's what's nice. So when you pair all this stuff together, we get a lot of horsepower. Also, another cool thing is the clutch. We went with a twin disc McLeod racing clutch. These twin disc clutches are really cool. Most clutches have one single plate, but inside this clutch, there's a twin disc clutch. There's two plates. What's nice about that is the clutch grabs harder, it's more durable, and what's really cool is you get a very easy pedal. We do a lot of race clutches, and when you put your clutch leg in, like it really is stiff and it's hard to push that clutch in. If you're in Atlanta traffic like we are, that's the last thing you want in the car. But a twin disc clutch can withstand more power than a lot of single disc clutches, and it feels factory. So that's kind of nice. So again, when all these bundle together, you get the power, you get the durability from the motor, you get the durability of the clutch, and it's going to be a Hellcat killer. So these motors, once they're built, they can actually withstand about 1,400 horses. So you go with the right fuel system and the right pulley setup, we can actually make 1,400 at the crank. But on most of these builds, we do about 700 to about 950 wheel-reel horsepower is about where we set them at. And that's plenty because when you're giving this thing wide open throttle, you're beating on the car hard, it's kind of laughing at you like, man, that's all you got, like give me more, because these pistons, rods, and that crank, they're bulletproof. But I mean, that's pretty much the rundown on John's car. So he's about to bring it in, we're gonna pull the motor out, disassemble it, probably line on it, check out the block and everything, and then go ahead and install this rotating assembly, put the engine in the car, install this supercharger. He's already got a good cam in the car we installed. He's already got some good headers on the car. So this is really the last piece of the puzzle to make that car night and day difference. His torque and horsepower is going to pretty much double from what he's got now. And that car's no slouch right now. It's pretty tough. But yeah, that's pretty much all rundown on it, y'all. Also, we give warranties. A lot of our packages come with 3-year warranties, and that's cool because at the end of the day, we are human. You can have the best technicians in the world, the best parts in the world, but sometimes mistakes do happen, and that's when our warranty kicks into play. Most shops don't have any type of warranty, so that's what's nice about us.
That's
so if
true.
he's out driving and something gets hurt and it's not his fault and it's our fault, then we will stand behind it, and it's really that simple. But yeah, John, you got any questions about the parts or anything like that?
No, you pretty much covered it all.
Easy enough. Well, I can't wait to see this thing because this is going to be cool, which I do think we need to take to the track and run against a Hellcat and kind of show you guys really the difference. That
I got one ready.
Another Hellcat next to you.
Yeah, I got a wide body ready.
Easy enough. Okay. But yeah, I'm trying to do anything else. Also, the piston rings, you get performance rings. When you build a motor, what's cool is they give you these performance piston rings, and you have to file piston rings. We've got this is something specialty shops have, but we've got a really nice piston ring filer that has a gauge that shows you how they work. So for guys that have never, no, those are spacers, those are not rings, where's the rings? But essentially, looks like we didn't bring the rings out, but I'll show you these. These are spacers. Normally a piston ring, nope, just kidding. There's a gap there. I thought it was a spacer. Sometimes they have spacers, but this is a gap. Yeah. So when you put it in the cylinder, you have a small gap there. Well, we want to file these down so that way we have the gap we want. With John running boost, we're going to gap these differently than a naturally aspirated motor. By gap, sometimes you want them tighter, sometimes you want them further apart. So we're going to get them down there to the exact distance we want on all 8 cylinders. You gap the top ring, and then there's a second ring. These go right there in the ridges of these screws there. And we're going to gap the top ring and the second ring in order so that the motor performs the way we want it to, so it can handle the boost.
Oh yeah, and what size pulley are you gonna put on there?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question right now. Normally when we do the pulleys, we actually only do about maybe a 6 or 7 pound pulley off the bat. That way when we give the car back to you, you can get used to it, because a lot of guys actually haven't had high horsepower cars before. True. So sometimes we give you a lower pound pulley. We might only make 500 horses at first. Right. We say go drive it maybe 500 miles, 1,000 miles, get used to the car. Then we'll put like a 10, 12, 13, 14 pound pulley on the car so we can make more boost and a lot more power. So the motor's already broken in and all the bugs are worked out, and most importantly, you're used to the car. Because we've given high horsepower cars back to customers and they've kind of got in some trouble, so it just helps out. But yeah, so off the bat, probably like a 5 or 6 pound pulley, something kind of low boost, something easy, and we'll go up and boost a little bit down the road.
All right. And before we finish it out, pretty much you can run through the break-in process, or what do you suggest once somebody do?
Now, break-in, every shop has a different break-in process. We like to be overly aggressive with our break-in processes. So when we give the car back to you, within the first 100 miles, we actually want you to change the oil. Then 500 miles, change the oil. And pretty much every 500 miles to about 2,000 miles, change the oil in the filter. The reason why is once you're using these rods, these pistons, the crank, everything's really tight in the motor, and you'll get little metal shavings that get in the oil. If you never change the oil out, then those metal shavings get between the bearings and the crank, and it can actually ruin the motor. So we want to change the oil pretty much every 500 miles for the first about 2,000, 2,500 miles. then you can start going to a more normal oil change interval. Again, that's aggressive, but when you're spending this kind of money on this type of quality parts, there's no such thing as being too careful. That just eliminates any potential issues with metal shavings.
That's true. All right. So there you have it, folks. This is my boy Parker. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. You just heard it firsthand. And just leave your questions in the comments. I'm going to be up here. I'm going to ask them questions that you might have about your build. I know a lot of guys that follow me, they have 6.4 liters, you know, the Scat Packs and the Hellcats. And he works on it all. So just to let you know. And that's pretty much it. Peace out. All right.
See y'all.
All right.